Well, last week we had 6 Democratic candidates, and this week it's become like my dad's favorite radio station, just the oldies. At this point, between Biden and Trump, I think the next debate should just be on that cruise ship. And whichever one of them can beat coronavirus becomes our next president.
Our next guest is head writer at Saturday Night Live and Weekend Update co-anchor. He has a new book out entitled A Very Punchable Face, which I can relate to. Let's welcome back to the show. It is Colin Jost. Great to hear from you, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, we were talking last week about Tom Hanks, how he is everyone's favorite uncle. When SNL did their first episode back during the quarantine, was he a no-brainer choice? What were the first 3 choices for that episode?
I thought he was the no-brainer choice. I think just because obviously he had gone through having COVID and survived it, and he was sort of the first big name that got sick in my memory. So it was, I was, whether he was up for it physically and whether he'd be willing to do it, we weren't sure, but he was definitely. It just made sense, and it felt like he was an oddly kind of like he often is, almost like a bellwether for the country, and he felt like. Again, he had done something on our show where he was America's dad, and it seemed like that, and so I think people were excited to see him.
You know, Colin, most of us grew up with SNL setting the tone for a lot of events in society, be it a presidential election, scandals, you name it, SNL was there. Now, here we are, quarantined, waiting on the first episode of SNL during quarantine. Were you nervous that first week back because all eyes were on the show?
Oh, my God, of course. Yes, I was extremely nervous and, just worried about screwing up, like on a basic level. Like I was afraid of not speaking when it wasn't on camera or, having my head looking the wrong way or things like that you would obviously not happen probably, but you start imagining all the little ways things can go wrong instead of focusing on what can go right.
Right. I mean, that first week, very raw, but there was something very special about it. I remember sitting there with my wife watching the entire episode thinking, okay, it's like they put together this sketch routine on TV, but, it was very enjoyable and it was comfortable.
Oh, good. Well, thanks. Not for me, but I'm glad for you it
was. You were a nervous wreck. We're talking with Colin Jost. His new book is called A Very Punchable Face. I saw you on the Tonight Show this week, and you told a story about stealing a picture from Bill Murray's house. And, the Murrays are from Chicago, and I know Joel very well, and we see Bill from time to time. Can you tell that story?
Yeah. I was a writer at SNL, and I was very fortunate to go to a Christmas party at Bill's house, and I feel like I should call him Mr. Murray for this story, and was at his party, and my friend and I were walking around, like wandering the halls of his house, and there was like this box that, honestly, I didn't know if he was throwing it away or what it was, and I opened this box, and there were these old photos of Bill and Richard Pryor that were in this box, and there were like 10 copies of the same photo. And I didn't know what he was doing. I was like, is he throwing these away? I don't know. And I was like, would be the most valuable photo that I would possess as a aspiring comedian and person coming up. And I was like, I was kind of started creating this idea that he was throwing them away.
Right.
So I was like, I better save one of them for me, as a tribute. And so I was like, I snuck out with this photo. And then immediately felt so horrible about it. But I was like, what am I going to do now? I can't go back and say, hey, I'm sorry I took it. And I swear to God, I thought he was never would pay attention to these photos or was throwing them away. And there were 10 copies. So I really thought, I'm not stealing anything too valuable. I thought it was a one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of thing.
Right. You were just trying to justify the fact that you were stealing from Bill Murray.
Yes, that's right. And my Catholic guilt became sort of I was trying to escape that guilt and create some sort of fantasy world where it was okay.
What is it with going to a Catholic school that you have this Catholic guilt that helps you later on in life if you work in media or the entertainment industry?
I don't know. I guess it helps you probably because you second guess everything you do. So maybe that's not good in some ways, but at least you're taking time to think about everything you do.
Right.
So maybe that's a good preservation instinct when you're in the industry for a while. But I don't know. It can be at times very overwhelming, and it's something I still have to find ways of dealing with.
I have a sister. I did 12 years of Catholic school, and I have a sister, Colin, that's a sister.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're in it.
Yeah, I'm really in it.
I say to people like I tell people I was raised Catholic, and I realize that I say it the way someone would say, I was raised by wolves, but I don't really, I don't do like a lot of wolf stuff. Like I'll be a wolf like, Christmas and Easter, but I don't do a lot of wolf stuff normally. And that's how I feel.
That makes sense. Your new book, A Very Punchable Face. Give me your most memorable sketch from SNL.
My most memorable sketch.
I mean, what sticks out, good or bad?
Good or bad? Wow. One of my most memorable sketches was I wrote the sketch for Will Ferrell. It was he was hosting this at the end of the season, and I wrote this sort of farewell end of the season sketch that was based on the song "Good Night Saigon" by Billy Joel, and it was this really random thing about a guy who talked about how he was going, who mentioned going to Vietnam, and then the helicopters start and the song starts up, and Will's got like 1,000-yard stare, and it turns out he just went to Vietnam for vacation a couple weeks ago. It wasn't like he was there to, and it was like this musical thing where all these old cast members joined and everyone came up, and it became this kind of nice season-ending thing. And I felt so lucky that it got on the show because it was kind of weird and a different thing. And that was one that was really memorable for me because it was such a nice way to end the season. Who
decides? Is it Lauren who decides what gets on the show?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the host will make a strong case for something, and Lauren will listen. But it's really Lauren, and there's not really a way of fighting it.
Right, of course, because he has the last say. Presidential election coming up.
It is his show. He just started.
Right, it is his show. Presidential election coming up this fall. Are you coming back for another season?
I'll be back for another season, yeah. I mean, especially because we lost some of our season for COVID, and I'm definitely excited to be there for the election at least, and see this thing through, and I'm curious to see what happens.
Colin, you have been self-quarantined with your fiancée, Scarlett Johansson, for 120-plus days. The quarantine is testing relationships. How is that going?
It's going well.
Good.
It really is. You're
good.
Being thrown into a very, a longer time together than we've ever had, and it's been great. It's been, I really think I was saying that I do think we've been together 120 days, and I think our previous record was like 5 days together in a row.
Yep.
Because we're always traveling and doing something, and it's been really nice. It's been nice to find a whole different rhythm, and I don't know. It's been nice. And
last time you were in studio, you put your phone number in my phone under Colin Jost, American Hero.
That's fantastic. I can't believe there wasn't drinking involved. But
I haven't taken advantage of it. I just want you to know it's in my phone under American Hero.
That's really good. That's great. I'm glad.
I love that you're cracking yourself up. This is your joke. See, you put it in my phone and you're laughing on the air here in Chicago.
It was like a real slow burn. I never knew I would see it again.
Colin Jost, thank you, buddy. A Very Punchable Face. Go out and buy the book. It's great to hear your voice, man. Continued success.
Thank you. I'll be back there at some point when I can be on the road touring again, so I'd love to come by.
And I'm going to send you a text. Don't worry.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, brother. It's Colin Jost, everybody.
I got to say, honestly, I could not be more excited for Biden-Trump debates. They're going to be the first debates that have to be moderated by a Jamaican nurse. As well as the only debates that air on the Turner Classic Movie Channel. And I don't want the moderator to ask them about anything political. I want all the questions to be like, who was the greatest slugger of the 50s? Who's your favorite white boxer?